So, yeah, it's been a great quarter. We achieved record Q2 deliveries.
Tesla has just reported a quarter that, on the surface, looks highly impressive. Revenue reached a record $28.24 billion, up 26% year over year, while vehicle deliveries climbed to 480,126 units, the highest in the company's history. However, beneath those record revenue figures lies a much less encouraging picture. Operating income fell 57% to just $398 million. To sustain record deliveries, Tesla continued relying on aggressive incentives, including low-interest financing, further squeezing profit margins on each vehicle sold. As a result, the spotlight of the earnings call shifted away from the quarterly financial results and toward Elon Musk's updates on Cybercab, Tesla Semi, Optimus, FSD, AI, 4680 batteries, and new manufacturing facilities.
We will soon start production with Optimus. We have started production with the Tesla semi-truck. We will soon start production with Megapack 3. We've started production with the lithium refinery, the cathode refinery. We're scaling up battery cell production, and we're also preparing to do a massive solar panel, like solar cells and panel production.
These projects are widely expected to become Tesla's next major growth engines. But do the announcements made this quarter provide enough evidence that Tesla is truly moving closer to those goals? Or do they remain largely milestones and promises for the future? Tesla says Robotaxi is expanding, but does the data actually prove it?
Finally, regarding the Cybercab, first of all, it's a phenomenal product. Anyone who rides in it instantly falls in love with the experience. We have aligned our manufacturing targets to roughly match the projected growth rate of the unsupervised miles.
In its Q2 2026 shareholder update, Tesla once again positioned Robotaxi as one of the company's most important long-term growth drivers. The company stated that the service is now operating in 7 U.S. cities, that Cybercab has entered production at Gigafactory, Texas, and that the Robotaxi service area continues to expand. However, a closer look at Tesla's own data paints a much more nuanced picture. In the shareholder presentation, Tesla highlighted the milestone of more than 2.4 million paid Robotaxi miles. The figure was presented as a cumulative chart with a steadily rising curve. This is a common way to present data because cumulative charts almost always convey the appearance of continuous growth. As long as the service remains active, total miles will continue to accumulate and the curve will continue moving upward. But for a business whose valuation depends on the pace of its expansion, the key metric is not the total miles accumulated over time. The more important question is how many additional paid miles the service is generating each quarter. When Tesla's cumulative data is broken down quarter by quarter, a different trend emerges. In Q3 2025, Robotaxi added roughly 150,000 paid miles. That increased to approximately 450,000 miles in Q4 2025. By Q1 2026, quarterly growth had reached about 900,000 paid miles. However, in Q2 2026, Robotaxi added roughly another 900,000 miles, essentially unchanged from the previous quarter. That suggests Robotaxi expanded rapidly throughout the second half of 2025, but once quarterly paid miles reached around 900,000, growth began to level off. The cumulative total continues to rise because the data is additive, but the quarterly growth rate itself has stopped accelerating. For a service expected to scale exponentially, that is a metric investors should pay close attention to. Looking even deeper into the monthly data makes the trend more noticeable. Based on Tesla's own chart, April alone accounted for roughly 500,000 paid miles, while May and June each contributed only around 200,000 miles. In other words, a large portion of the quarter's performance came early in the quarter, while growth slowed considerably afterward. If the pace seen in May and June were maintained, Robotaxi would be running at an annualized rate of roughly 600,000 paid miles per quarter, well below the level achieved in Q1. Meanwhile, Tesla continues emphasizing that Robotaxi is expanding into additional markets. Just before releasing its earnings report, the company announced service expansions to Miami, Orlando, and Tampa, while also increasing its operational area in Austin. From a communication standpoint, this creates the impression of a rapidly expanding network. But expanding the map does not necessarily mean the underlying business is expanding at the same pace. Tesla has not disclosed how many robotaxis are operating in each city. It has also not reported the total number of daily trips or the revenue generated by each market. As a result, it is difficult to determine whether geographic expansion reflects a larger fleet or simply the redistribution of the existing fleet across more cities. For a ride-hailing platform, metrics such as active vehicles, vehicle utilization, completed trips, and revenue per vehicle generally provide a much clearer picture of business growth than simply counting the number of cities served. Elon Musk has now missed his near-term robotaxi targets across 3 consecutive earnings reports, and shareholders used this quarter's Q&A session to ask him why. Ironically, the answer may already be found in Tesla's own presentation if you read the data carefully. Tesla has repeatedly promised that it would eventually have 1 million autonomous robotaxis on the road. It has made that promise multiple times over the years. Yet until the quarterly paid-mile curve begins bending upward again instead of flattening into a straight line, the claim that robotaxi is expanding is not fully supported by the available data. That leaves an obvious question for the next earnings call. If the fleet is growing and the service area has expanded fourfold, why did paid robotaxi miles in Q2 remain essentially identical to Q1? Following a disappointing financial quarter, Tesla quickly shifted the conversation toward the future. Nearly every highlight in its Q2 shareholder update focused on projects that are about to begin rather than those already delivering results. Tesla Semi remains on track for mass production. Megafactory Texas is preparing to come online. Optimus is approaching production, and Tesla continues expanding its AI capabilities. It is an impressive list, but for the most part, these are still future milestones rather than accomplishments that have already translated into measurable business results. In its automotive business, Tesla emphasized that it achieved record vehicle deliveries in several markets, including South Korea, Japan, Australia, Thailand, and Taiwan, while also stating that the Model Y has received positive customer feedback following its U.S. launch. These are certainly encouraging signals, but they should be viewed in the broader context of Tesla's global business, where competition continues to intensify. Setting delivery records in individual markets does not necessarily mean overall demand has recovered worldwide. What investors ultimately need to see is not a growing list of countries posting record deliveries, but a meaningful recovery in global sales growth and automotive profit margins. Energy generation and storage remain the strongest part of Tesla's report. The company said that energy storage deployments in the EMEA region reached a record high and that Megafactory Texas is expected to begin manufacturing Megapack 3 and Megablock later this year. That outlook is certainly credible, given that Megafactory Shanghai has already demonstrated Tesla's ability to scale Megapack production at an impressive pace. However, constructing a factory is only the first step. The real challenge is bringing production online on schedule while securing enough battery supply to support the rapidly growing demand from both electric vehicles and energy storage products. Optimus remains the project Elon Musk appears to be betting on the most. Tesla confirmed that its first-generation production lines have been installed at Fremont and that the initial robots will be deployed within the Optimus Academy to collect training data and further develop the system's capabilities. This represents meaningful progress compared with a year ago, when Optimus was still largely limited to demonstrations. However, producing a limited number of robots for AI training is fundamentally different from manufacturing tens of thousands of robots capable of operating reliably in real-world industrial environments. So far, Tesla has not disclosed production throughput, manufacturing yields, failure rates, or long-term operational reliability. That suggests Optimus is still in the foundation-building phase rather than being ready for large-scale commercialization. Tesla also continues investing aggressively in artificial intelligence. The company said its on-site computing capacity in Texas has more than doubled during the first half of 2026, and that Cortex-2 is now being used to train both FSD and Optimus. There is little doubt that expanding AI infrastructure is essential if Tesla intends to compete in autonomous driving and humanoid robotics. However, having more GPUs or more megawatts of computing power does not automatically result in better AI systems. The true value of these investments will only be demonstrated if Tesla can translate that computing capacity into measurable real-world improvements in both FSD and Optimus. Battery production remains what Tesla describes as one of its biggest constraints. The company said it is expanding production of 4680 cells, cathode materials, lithium refining, and LFP batteries to support Cybercab, Tesla Semi, Model Y, and its energy storage products. Strategically, this approach makes complete sense because nearly every one of Tesla's future growth plans depends on increasing battery supply. However, Tesla has not disclosed how much additional production capacity is being added or how quickly 4,680 output is actually increasing. Without those figures, it remains difficult to determine whether the battery bottleneck has truly been solved or is simply improving gradually. Why still no clear upgrade plan for Tesla's Hardware 3 owners? One of the biggest unanswered questions from Tesla's Q2 2026 earnings call was the future of millions of vehicles equipped with Hardware 3. When asked directly whether Tesla still planned to upgrade these vehicles so they could run future full self-driving software, Elon Musk did not provide a concrete answer. Instead of outlining a specific roadmap, Musk suggested several possibilities. He said upgrading vehicles below Hardware 4 makes sense and could become economically viable in the future, but he offered no timeline, no implementation plan, and no commitment. The answer became even more uncertain when Musk suggested Tesla might skip Hardware 4 altogether and upgrade HW3 vehicles to a next-generation AI computer instead. He mentioned a modest successor to AI4 that could enter production around the middle of next year, or the more powerful AI5 chip, which he hopes will reach volume production by the end of next year. However, Musk also noted that AI5 would initially be prioritized for Optimus. In other words, the hardware that could eventually replace HW3 has not even entered mass production yet. This issue dates back to 2016 when Tesla stated that every new vehicle was equipped with all the hardware necessary for full self-driving capability. FSD was sold for years based on that promise. Musk has since acknowledged that HW3 lacks the computing capability required for unsupervised autonomous driving, noting that it has only about 1/8 the memory bandwidth of Hardware 4. According to Electrek, Tesla may eventually need to replace the computers in roughly 4 million vehicles or compensate affected owners. Meanwhile, the company has introduced FSD V14 Lite for HW3 vehicles, a scaled-down version that extends compatibility but also highlights the platform's hardware limitations. The fundamental challenge remains the same. Upgrading millions of vehicles would be an enormous logistical and financial undertaking. During the earnings call, Tesla presented no concrete plan for addressing that challenge. For now, HW3 owners are simply being asked to wait for future hardware that has yet to reach mass production. Whether Tesla ultimately delivers a comprehensive upgrade program or pursues another solution remains one of the company's biggest unresolved questions.